Good evening, folks. I hope you're all doing well, and as always, I appreciate your support and viewership very much. After deciding to go back to school, a lot of my time has been dedicated to doing well in class and a heck of a learning curve. So, I've had less time to dedicate towards the show. Instead of once a week, I will be doing bi-weekly episodes from now on. But I will continue, as always, to bring you Blank Space, where my space is your space too. Thank you everybody for your understanding, and I hope you'll continue to watch and look forward to episodes to come. Thank you. Welcome back to another thrilling episode of Blank Space. I'm your host, Matt Blank, and this is my space. Today we're peeling back the layers of reality to reveal the bizarre, the unexplained, and the downright fascinating. Stories that are often left in the shadows. From ancient relics to the cutting edge of science, we've got a lineup that will leave you questioning everything you thought you knew. Remember, here in Blank Space, my space is your space too. Our first story takes us back in time, literally. The return of Theodore Roosevelt's stolen pocket watch to his New York home has sparked waves of excitement among history buffs. After nearly 4 decades, this artifact's recovery isn't just a reunion with the past. It's a story that's richer than a history book.
Next story, like something out of a movie script. A pocket watch that once belonged to former President Theodore Roosevelt is now back on display. This after it was being stolen from a museum nearly 40 years ago. It's now back. The lost relic was a gift from his sister and was with him through a long list of historical events. It was this close to being sold at auction last year. With the latest, here's Long Island reporter Shantae Lands.
Standing with the park ranger, Teddy Roosevelt's great-grandson reveals the unseen. The president's stolen silver Waltham pocket watch had been missing for 4 decades.
It's home. The watch is home. What a trip it's had.
The engraved watch was gifted to Theodore Roosevelt by his sister 126 years ago. About 37 years ago, it disappeared, stolen from a federal museum in Buffalo, New York. Last year, it reappeared for the first time.
It was scheduled for a private sale at an auction house in Florida.
Through the efforts of the National Park Service and the FBI, we've recovered the watch and brought it back home here to Sagamore Hill.
Thousands of miles spent by his side, centered on the passage of time.
When you think of what that watch went through, it was given to him before he went up San Juan Hill, so there it was, and all the way through, and all his adventures down the Brazilian rivers to Africa. But what's really interesting is what it heard in the White House.
Serving as the 26th President of the United States from 1901 to 1909, before passing away in his sleep in 1919 inside his North Shore, Long Island home in Cove Neck.
Imagine holding a piece of time, once in the hands of a president who shaped the nation. Now, that piece is back where it belongs. This watch is more than just a timepiece. It's a symbol of an era of decisions made in moments that shaped the course of history. Next, we step into the realm of science fiction becoming a reality. What if I told you that scientists have taken a leap towards simulating time travel? It sounds like something out of science fiction or a blockbuster film, but this experiment could change the way we perceive time itself.
You of course know that the Earth is bathed in sunlight every day. Every day we flicker different light sources on and off, mechanically, without even thinking about it. But imagine that one day you casually flicker the lights off, fall asleep, and wake up in a completely different era. Let's see how it happened and what it has to do with light. Quantum physics is quite crazy. Classical physics is like a movie projected from start to finish, while the quantum world is like having an ability to take the remote control and manipulate scenes you're watching. Fascinating and mysterious. Let's say you have a regular light switch that can be either on or off. That's like a regular bit in computers, which can be in one of two states, 0 or 1. But in quantum computers, there's a special kind of switch, a switch called a qubit. Unlike the regular bits, a qubit can exist in multiple states at the same time. It can be both 0, 1, and all things in between, like having lights on and off simultaneously. Yeah, our universe has some weird rules. This mysterious property, called superposition, allowed us to do something incredible recently, to reverse time back. At least in a tiny experiment with quantum computers. It's the autumn of 2022. Two groups of scientists, one from Oxford and the other from Vienna, decided to conduct a weird experiment. They played around with a quantum computer to create a program that reverses time. They took a tiny electron and tried to make it go backward for a time for just a fraction of a second. It would be like breaking a billiard ball triangle, where the balls go from order to chaos and then magically reverse. But don't get too excited about time travel yet. Unfortunately, we're not sure if it's possible to recreate it in real life. The scientists cracked some numbers and found out that if we observe 10 billion localized electrons every second for the entire age of the universe, we'd only see something like this happen once. And it would only take the electron back a tiny fraction of a second. So, unfortunately, no time machine so far. But there are some possible uses of this discovery. Reversing qubit states in a quantum computer can help correct errors during development, sort of like a little Control-Z in real life. So, it was a tiny step to more exciting discoveries in the future. For example, recently, they demonstrated another crazy little thing, send light itself back in time. Now, light isn't mere luminary. It has superpowers that we can't even imagine. The ancient Greeks believed that our eyes emitted visionary beams. Sir Isaac Newton proved them wrong hundreds of years later when he conducted his experiments with prisms. The prism broke the pure white light into a beautiful palette. And that's how we found out that light actually consists of tons of different colors. Many years later, scientists learned even more that light is a wave. And even later, in the 20th century, we discovered the final paradox, that it's both a wave and a particle, a dual existence in one photon. And the more we learn about light, the more crazy things we find. In 2016, scientists managed to freeze the light in time. They put photons, the tiniest light particles, in ultra-cold atomic clouds. Then they managed to stop it, again, for just a moment. But the fact that it's even possible is already incredible. Then scientists got even bolder. They decided to try not only to freeze the light, but to move its direction in time. They took a special crystal and passed a photon through it, thus initiating the so-called quantum time reversal. As a result, the photon started moving into both the future and past at the same time. The science magic behind this involves two quantum principles, superposition and quantum symmetry. We already mentioned the first one. It allows tiny particles to exist in multiple states at once. Now, the second principle says that even if you flip particles around like a mirror, they'll still follow the same laws. Combining this, scientists crafted a photon that defied the usual forward march of time. But again, it's nothing super fancy yet. This time flip only works for specific particles, not entire humans. And even if it did work for us, rewinding a person even for a second would take a super long time and a lot of energy. But the fact that we can change the light's speed and make it change directions is already amazing. And scientists already see some possible applications to this. For example, Harvard researchers suggest a cool way for spacecraft to zip through space at the speed of light by hitching a ride on supernovas. Usually, traveling to other stars takes an insane amount of energy, but these scientists have a wild idea. They think that spaceships could use natural events like hypervelocity stars and meteors zooming from supernovas to reach superfast speeds. It's kind of similar to how sailing ships catch the wind. Advanced civilizations could use these energy bursts to speed up their spacecraft. Imagine a cool spacecraft with solar or magnetic sails harnessing the power of a supernova boom. These sails could use the pressure of the sun's radiation to work, so that we wouldn't need any traditional engines or fuel. Plus, these sails concepts are much lighter and cheaper to launch into space compared to regular spacecraft. The team is already working on a light sail accelerated by lasers to reach 20% of the speed of light. It might not sound like a lot, but it's actually an insane speed. Their dream is to help humanity make a swift journey to Alpha Centauri in just 2 decades. Isn't it amazing how many things we can do with light, and not just in our imagination? Let's go to more practical achievements. Recently, a Canadian camouflage company called Hyperstealth Biotechnology Corporation has crafted an actual invisibility cloak. The wizardly cloak doesn't need any power source, is as thin as paper, and won't break the bank. Hyperstealth envisions a world where this material can cloak people, vehicles, ships, spacecraft, and even entire buildings. It's still in a prototype phase, but it already works pretty well. They name this incredible technology quantum stealth. It bends light in a way that can make objects disappear from sight. It can render objects nearly invisible, not only in the visible spectrum, but also in ultraviolet, infrared, shortwave infrared, and it even throws in thermal spectrum blocking for good measure. The technology works thanks to the lenticular lens, a corrugated sheet with outward curving lenses. When stacked in a specific way, these lenses refract light at various angles, creating spots that block light and conceal the object behind the material. Unfortunately, it doesn't give you a full invisibility effect, but maybe someday we'll achieve it, if we keep working on it. If you hide behind it, it will look like a little dirty or blurred glass, but you won't be visible. If you put this veil in front of your body, you'll look like a floating head.
Picture this. Researchers bending the rules of time using quantum mechanics to simulate what we once thought was impossible. As we inch closer to understanding the true nature of time, who knows what other secrets the universe might reveal? Maybe time travel isn't just for the movies anymore, but I've got to say, the invisibility cloak becoming a reality is indeed super cool. It may be a few years before the average person can go buy one at Walmart, but I know I'll definitely be standing in line for that one. Invisibility is no longer just a fantasy. Today, several companies are working to make objects and even people disappear from sight using advanced light manipulation techniques. Let's take a look at some of the major players and how their technology works. First, we have Invisibility Shield Co. Based out of the UK. These are some images of the invisibility shields and cloaks available today, and some are even at a reasonable price, affordable by most anyone. Invisibility Shield Co. brings a consumer-friendly product to the market with its Invisibility Shield 2.0. This technology uses precision-engineered lenses to redirect light, diffusing it across the shield's surface. Light coming from behind the shield bends around the person or object standing behind it, rendering them invisible from a frontal perspective. The science behind this is light diffraction, allowing the object to blend seamlessly into its surroundings when the background is uniform, like a clear sky or sand. Available in different sizes, such as the Mini for small items and the Mega Shield for larger objects, these shields are already on pre-order via Kickstarter. Prices start at just $69, making it one of the few consumer-accessible invisibility technologies on the market today. Though primarily intended for recreational use, this shield has potential applications in law enforcement and security as well. The second company we look at is Invisible Forge, based in the USA. Invisible Forge takes invisibility to the next level with their modular invisibility equipment. This advanced tech utilizes a mix of polymers, metamaterials, and nanotechnology. To alter how light interacts with surfaces, effectively rendering objects invisible to the naked eye and detection systems. Nanotubes built into the materials emit heat, creating thermal gradients that mask the object's heat signature, making it also undetectable to infrared cameras. Their products include wearable cloaks and shields for military personnel, as well as invisible flying and land drones for stealth missions. With prices ranging from $28,600 US for shields to $184,500 for cloaks. This equipment is available for purchase, though primarily marketed to specialized civilian sectors and military forces. And for the third company we'll discuss today, Hyperstealth Biotechnology, based out of Canada. Hyperstealth's quantum stealth technology is perhaps the most impressive in the field of invisibility. This thin, lightweight material bends light across multiple spectrums, visible, ultraviolet, and infrared, allowing it to hide objects from both visual and thermal detection. What sets quantum stealth apart is that it requires no power source. It can effectively hide soldiers, vehicles, and even large military equipment like tanks and aircraft. Currently, quantum stealth is being tested by military forces, including U.S. Special Forces and the British military. While still in advanced testing phases, this material is not yet available to the public. Pricing is not disclosed as it remains under military contracts. Fourth, we look at the Chinese military R&D. China has also entered the race developing metamaterial cloaks that manipulate light similar to technologies used by companies like Hyperstealth. These cloaks are primarily designed for military use, and research focuses on developing materials that can bend light and mask thermal signatures to hide soldiers and vehicles. As of now, these technologies are still in development and not commercially available. There are many military and law enforcement applications for this technology. Invisible technology offers a range of potential applications, particularly from military and law enforcement, from cloaking soldiers on the battlefield to hiding tanks and aircraft from enemy detection. This technology could revolutionize stealth tactics. Hyperstealth Biotechnology, Invisible Forge, and the Chinese military R&D are leading the charge, with a focus on broad-spectrum light-bending materials that can hide objects from both visual and infrared cameras. Hyperstealth's quantum stealth and Invisible Forge's modular cloaks and shields are already being tested for practical military use. Prices for such advanced military products like Invisible Forge's cloaks range from $28,600 to $184,500, depending on the complexity and application, making invisibility a reality in modern combat. These technologies provide a significant edge in both warfare and covert operations, but each of these companies brings unique innovations from consumer-accessible products to highly advanced military-grade technology. Whether for fun, safety, or national defense, invisibility technology is pushing the boundaries of what's possible in the world of stealth and concealment, and some are already available for purchase. To me, this is just simply fascinating that we've come to this point, and it'll be interesting to see how the technology develops from here. At this point, for $69, you can fold up an invisibility shield and carry it around like a briefcase and set it up where you want. It's really quite amazing as from the images we've seen, and I'll continue to keep you updated on the most recent developments, as always. As far as time travel, history is full of strange accounts of people supposedly traveling through time. Some of these stories defy explanation, like the mysterious case of the man who claimed to be from a non-existent country and vanished without a trace.
Hello, everyone. The mysterious man nicknamed the Man from Taured is considered to be one of the greatest mysteries of the past century. It is as if the man appeared from nowhere. To this day, his identity is unknown. Perhaps there are many stories of people who suddenly appeared and whose identities are unknown. However, what's unique about this story is that the Man from Taured came from a world that doesn't exist, like a ghost or a time traveler. Today, we will tell you about this interesting event. This incredible story took place in Japan. The man was spotted in the Tokyo Haneda Airport in 1954. On that day, a plane arrived from Europe and the passengers headed to customs. That's when people noticed the strange man. Even though there was nothing extremely odd about him at first glance, he nevertheless drew attention to himself. The middle-aged stranger was well-dressed and had a beard. He told airport workers that he came to Japan on a business trip for the third time that year. Everything was going well until the customs officer asked him where he came from. The man confidently said that he came from Taured. According to him, the country is located between France and Spain, but in actuality, no such country exists. For the most part, the man spoke French, but he also knew some Japanese and a few other languages. His wallet contained money from various European countries. What amazed the customs officer was that his passport was issued in Taured. Its pages had visa stamps from other countries, which confirmed that the traveler had been around the world and visited Japan previously. The man also had a driver's license from Taured. The man claimed that he was in a rush to get to a meeting with a Japanese company, but when the authorities called the company, its representatives said that they had never heard of the man, nor of the company that he was representing. The hotel in which the man supposedly booked a room also had no records of him. The bank that issued his checkbook turned out to be non-existent. The mysterious traveler himself responded to everyone's doubts with laughter. He was sure that people were playing a prank on him. He said irritatedly, "What do you mean the country doesn't exist? What's going on?" The authorities presented him with a world map, which showed that between France and Spain was a small country called Andorra, not Taured. The man claimed that Andorra did not exist. He said that Taured exists in its place, and that's where he came from. The customs officers decided to detain the traveler until his situation was clarified. They placed him in a hotel room not far from the airport. All night long, he was under the supervision of immigration officials, but the next morning, they realized that he had disappeared from inside the locked hotel room. All of his documents, which were located in the airport security room, disappeared as well. The passenger disappeared as suddenly as he appeared. It seems that he went back to his Taured. The mystery of this man was never solved. Many people think that the man came from a parallel universe. Skeptics, on the other hand, note that there is no physical evidence that the man ever existed. Some critics say that his story was first told in the book The Directory of Possibilities by Colin Wilson and John Grant, but its veracity was never confirmed.
From urban legends to government conspiracies, these time travel stories have baffled skeptics and believers alike. Though many time travel mysteries have been debunked in recent years, they continue to fascinate and inspire the imagination of people around the world. There are still tales that remain unexplained, Many of the most compelling include evidence thousands of years old. What are your thoughts? Fact or fiction? We report, you decide.
Many societies have shown evidence of a higher form of knowledge. It was believed that the origins of some of the information were given to the primitive societies by aliens. But those aliens could have actually been us from the future. One such ancient civilization that held many strange secrets was the Egyptians. The Egyptian hieroglyphic system has revealed many things to researchers. After a recent strange discovery was unearthed, many theories have surfaced that question if the Egyptians were subject to some form of time travel. In an Egyptian temple, a 3,000-year-old discovery was made. The temple is said to be one of the most important Egyptian structures and was a place of worship of Osiris. The carvings had depicted what looks like helicopters with rotor blades and other types of aircraft. The aircraft are situated among carvings of snakes and insects. The presence of these symbols has led to pseudoscientists to believe that time travel has been documented by the ancient society. The Manchester's Association of Paranormal Investigation and Training chairman, Stephen Mira, decided to arrange a UFO conference. He reportedly backed up the claims. He showed the images to his association and stated that the one symbol appears to be a helicopter, with rotor blades and something that looks like a rudder and an airplane wing. He was quoted as saying, quote, "I'm not saying that this is a helicopter, but it's worth considering." Scientists regarded this artifact as out of place. Archaeologists initially believed that the script translated to "He who repulses the nine." Some of those researchers are now in favor of the hypothesis that this ancient society did see these modern objects. Many images and video clips of these strange symbols have made their way around the world through social media. This produced many incredible theories. One stated that they think these objects came to the ancient civilizations in visions and dreams, and highlighted that it looks as though there's a submarine as well as the aircrafts. Another thought is that these creations were done in error. The features of the artifact further the belief that extraterrestrials were involved in the knowledge of the ancient societies, and aided in the building of the Egyptian pyramids. This theory has birthed the hypothetical question, were the extraterrestrials us from the future? Self-proclaimed investigators claim that the hieroglyphs were actually the names of pharaohs, stating that the names of pharaohs were written using pictograms. This is not the only claim of presumed time travel involvement regarding ancient Egypt, though. Some theorists believe that aliens had given the Egyptians the knowledge to build the pyramids. The lights of Dendera exist as another evidential artifact. This discovery was another carving which seemed to depict electrical lamps connected to devices that generated electrical currents. These carvings had been found in the Temple of Dendera, which houses more interesting carvings relating to the knowledge of electricity. In addition to this, the structures created by the Egyptians would perhaps require the use of some form of power tool, further adding to the idea that they'd been taught these ideas by futuristic beings. The idea that an ancient civilization came to Earth to teach the Egyptians. This can be adapted to the idea that humans had actually been the ones to go back in time and taught the Egyptians everything they know. The Mesopotamian society believed that they were visited by an alien with a human head and fish-like limbs. This is also an example of possible time travel that our future selves accomplished. The fish features may refer to futuristic attire. Another carving depicts imagery of modern-looking astronaut costumes, and it's even been nicknamed Ancient Astronauts, adding as another reference to time travel in this ancient world. Although many speculate the validity of the apparent futuristic aircraft inscriptions, there's still much more evidence to consider throughout the ancient archaeological world, which points to the suggested presence of time travel. This was not the only time that an ancient civilization presented knowledge of futuristic events. In the center of China, the Dayu Cave is host to some inscriptions which detail 7 different droughts between 1520 and 1920. The cave drawings revealed that inhabitants would come to the cave to pray for water during a drought. In 1891, predictions spoke of the mayor of the Qing dynasty leading 200 people to the cave for water. The Chinese Academy of Science has stated that among the other findings, these inscriptions had been particularly exceptional. The knowledge that these ancient societies possessed led to the belief that some form of time travel may be taking place. As continuously covered by the media, many strange drawings and artifacts have been found that often depict astronauts or otherworldly visitors. Sometime in the future, we may have figured out time travel and equipped the ancient societies with all of this knowledge. Another possibility, as later discussed, is that the ones who created these inscriptions had experienced a time slip and saw the future for themselves, which they then documented.
Interesting. Obviously, there's plenty more where that came from, far more than I can feature in a single episode. But I'll continue to research the most compelling unsolved mysteries, featuring them throughout future episodes for your curiosity and enjoyment. Up next, our journey takes us to the recently discovered lost city of Ocomtún. Moving on from the mysteries of time, we dive deep into the jungles of Central America, where archaeologists have uncovered what they believe is the lost Mayan city of Ocomtún. Buried beneath centuries of overgrowth, this discovery sheds new light on a civilization long forgotten. Imagine uncovering a city that has been hidden from the world for centuries, each stone telling a story of a once thriving civilization. The rediscovery of Ocomtún is more than just an archaeological find. It's a journey back in time, revealing the secrets of a world we thought was lost forever.
From the early 1800s to early 1900s, it wasn't uncommon for European institutions to still see the American natives as, at best, noble savages, simple, holistic people living with the land and devoid of any complex thought. But they had a problem. As explorers trekked the deep, remote jungles like Stevens and Catherwood in Central America and Hiram Bingham in the high Andes of Peru, along with many other explorers and historical accounts from hundreds of years before, they began to more and more rediscover the ruins of many great ancient American civilizations. Initially, the European thought was to separate these great ruins from the indigenous people who still live in the surrounding areas, stating that they were too primitive to have been the descendants of such an obviously grand, intelligent, and artistic civilization. But archaeology has come a long way in the last 200 to 300 years, and we have now explored, located, documented, and studied thousands of lost ancient American cities, of which the archaeological data irrefutably proves that these cities were built by the ancestors of the indigenous communities who still live in the area and speak many of the same languages. And in the modern day, it is often said that the age of exploration is over. However, with all of our LiDAR and satellite imaging technology, we still have not uncovered the vastness of civilizations in the ancient Americas. After a series of LiDAR scans in the Mexican jungles of Campeche, just north of Balamcu, a lost archaeological site discovered in just 1990, imaging came back to the archaeological team working under Ivan's project that depicted the ruins of a large settlement far exceeding the size of a regular ancient Maya village. Then, much in the footsteps of Franz Blom, Stevens and Catherwood, or even Percy Fawcett in the Amazon jungle, Dr. Ivan's project's team descended 37 miles deep into what had been termed archaeological black hole of impenetrable jungle to document the site in person. Now, only a few photos, and none of which of the largest ball courts, plazas, and pyramids have been released to the world yet. But what has been released is pretty amazing and proves that the age of exploration is certainly not over. Only photos of a few long-buried stone structures, staircases, and columns have been released so far, of which these columns are so numerous that they named this new city Ocomtún, meaning stone column. Furthermore, reports are coming back of pyramids at the site of up to 50 feet in height. That's about half the height of the most notorious Mayan pyramid Kukulkan at Chichen Itza. Now, the stone columns in which the city is named after are numerous, and they would have served as structural support for the city's buildings, now in a toppled and raided state, Likely, they once looked more similar to the stone columns found at Chichen Itza. The archaeological characteristics of the city, as well as its location and the evidence gathered from pottery fragments in the area, indicate that the city was likely built during the late Classic era from around 600 to 800 AD and was deserted around 1000 AD during the still unexplained collapse of Maya civilization, which occurred about 500 years before the Spanish conquistadors ever arrived in the Americas and has been laying dormant among the trees, birds, and snakes ever since. If we look at the density of charted and discovered Maya ruins alongside the blank spots on the archaeological map, it really gives you the sense of just how much is left to be discovered and how little we truly understand of this and other great ancient American civilizations.
Now, speaking of secrets revealed, let's take a look up at the skies, diving into the latest and unknown aerial phenomena and the recent surge in global UFO sightings. In recent months, the world has seen a surge in UFO sightings, from strange lights in the night sky to government admissions to the existence of unexplained aerial phenomena. Even hardened skeptics are finally realizing we're not alone in the universe. Unexplained sightings are making headlines across the globe. Could we be on the verge of a new era in human history?
A Pentagon report is detailing a dramatic increase in UFO sightings, more than 350 since 2021. Many of them are explained as being drones, birds, or weather events, but about half of them remain unexplained.
And the office that tracks these sightings in restricted military airspace says that some, quote, require further analysis. That's an understatement. CNN space and defense correspondent Kristen Fisher has the details.
Boris and Amra, Capitol Hill has been waiting for this report from the Office of the Director of National Intelligence, or the ODNI. And what this report found is that there have been more than 300 new sightings of what the government calls UAPs, or unidentified aerial phenomena, or more commonly called UFOs, since the last time that the ODNI put out a report like this back in 2021. Back then, the ODNI could not explain 144 sightings of UAPs. This time, now they can explain 171 of them. And one part of the report that really stands out is this one. It says that some of these uncharacterized UAPs appear to have demonstrated unusual flight characteristics or performance capabilities and require further analysis. So, is it advanced U.S. technology? Is it advanced technology from a foreign adversary like perhaps China or Russia? Or is it extraterrestrial in origin or something else entirely? We just don't know. And the U.S. government says that it doesn't know either, or at least it will not say so publicly in this unclassified report. But they did give some explanations for about 163 of the sightings that have been detailed in this report. And here's how they explain those. The vast majority are either balloons or balloon entities. A handful were drones. Another handful were what they call airborne clutter, things like birds, weather events, or airborne debris like plastic bags. So the bottom line here, members of Congress say that this is a step in the right direction to reducing the stigma associated with reporting sightings of UAPs. It's also a step in the right direction to enhancing national security because, remember, a lot of these sightings happen right around military bases or assets. But while it's a step in the right direction, members of Congress say the Pentagon, the Office of the Director of National Intelligence, still have a long way to go to giving them the answers that they ultimately want.
Whether these sightings are man-made, extraterrestrial, or something else entirely, one thing is certain. The truth is still out there, waiting to be uncovered, and only time will tell. The Pentagon has released a series of reports confirming numerous encounters with unidentified aerial phenomena, or UAPs. While some of these sightings may have earthly explanations, others remain a mystery, fueling a cocktail of fear and fascination. Even our top defense agencies are admitting that there are things in our skies that we just simply can't explain.
Well, this morning we have some new photos from what New Yorkers think are flying UFOs above Manhattan.
This comes as a new report says UFO sightings are up this year in New York. George Bailey is right here with us to show us what the evidence looks like.
One of my favorite topics, guys. So the National UFO Reporting Center, founded back in 1974, says UFO sightings are up 4% in New York City. So last year there were 27 sightings. This year, a whopping 28. National UFO Reporter Center lets users upload pictures of depictions of what they've seen around the world. This is a picture from Queens someone took on September 21st. That submission says the craft was changing directions, going left and right and up and down and hovering multiple times, going all over the place. And they say it lasted about 5 minutes. Now, the Empire State Building seems to be an attraction as well for UFO sightings. At least 13 reports mention the skyscraper, including this one from back in February. The person who submitted this says they took the pictures while at a crosswalk, didn't notice the 6 orbs until the next day. Guys, I'm not saying it's aliens, but it's probably aliens.
It's always good to know you're not alone, but not actually in this case.
If these sightings are genuine, what does it mean for humanity's future? Are we truly ready to face what lies beyond the stars? To wrap up, here are the top 10 most compelling UFO sightings caught on camera. Some of these may have earthly explanations, while others remain beyond our current understanding. Some are mundane, some are bizarre, but all of these sightings challenge our understanding of reality itself.
UFO sightings have captured humanity's imagination for decades, but some stand out due to their credibility, evidence, and the sheer number of witnesses. In this video, we explore 10 of the most well-documented UFO sightings that have left even the experts scratching their heads. From the Phoenix Lights to the Rendlesham Forest incident, these cases remain some of the greatest mysteries of our time. 1. The Phoenix Lights, 1997, Arizona, USA. On March 13, 1997, thousands of people in Arizona, including the city of Phoenix, witnessed an extraordinary sight. What appeared to be a massive V-shaped formation of lights silently gliding across the sky. For nearly 2 hours, these lights were seen by residents, police officers, and even the then-governor Fife Symington, who later admitted to having seen an unexplainable craft. While the U.S. military claimed these lights were simply flares from a training exercise, many witnesses disagreed, stating that the craft was far too large and moved too quietly. This event is often described as one of the most widely witnessed UFO sightings in modern history, leaving behind videos, photos, and countless unanswered questions. 2. The Rendlesham Forest Incident, 1980. Suffolk, UK. In December 1980, military personnel at RAF Woodbridge in England witnessed a series of strange events that became known as the Rendlesham Forest Incident. Over 3 nights, multiple servicemen, including Lieutenant Colonel Charles Holt, reported seeing mysterious lights in the forest. Some even described seeing a metallic craft on the ground, leaving burn marks and high radiation levels at the landing site. Despite initial skepticism, Holt's own recordings and subsequent affidavits strongly suggest that something unearthly happened in that forest. To this day, it remains one of the most credible UFO encounters due to the involvement of military witnesses and physical evidence. 3. The USS Nimitz encounter, 2004, Pacific Ocean. In 2004, U.S. Navy pilots aboard the USS Nimitz encountered what they described as a tic-tac-shaped craft moving at incredible speeds off the coast of California. The unidentified object defied the laws of physics, with no visible propulsion and extreme acceleration. Known as the Tic Tac UFO, this sighting was captured on radar and infrared cameras, leaving behind undeniable evidence. This incident was declassified in 2017, raising serious questions even within the U.S. government. To this day, it remains one of the most credible UFO sightings, backed by both military testimonies and hard data. 4. The Westall UFO Incident, 1966, Melbourne, Australia. In 1966, over 200 students and teachers at Westall High School in Melbourne, Australia, witnessed a flying saucer hovering over their school. Some students described the UFO landing briefly before quickly flying away, leaving them mesmerized and confused. Despite the large number of witnesses, authorities attempted to dismiss the sighting. Decades later, the Westall UFO incident remains one of the most compelling due to the sheer number of credible witnesses. Why did officials cover it up? What did the students actually see that day? These questions continue to fuel debate. 5. The Battle of Los Angeles, 1942. California, USA. In the early hours of February 25, 1942, chaos erupted over the skies of Los Angeles. Air raid sirens blared, and over 1,400 rounds of anti-aircraft ammunition were fired at an unidentified object detected by military radar. This event, now famously known as the Battle of Los Angeles, occurred just months after the attack on Pearl Harbor, leaving residents in a state of fear and uncertainty. Despite the barrage of fire, no enemy planes or wreckage were ever found. While the Navy later dismissed the event as a false alarm triggered by jittery nerves, some witnesses reported seeing a mysterious, slow-moving object hovering in the sky. Conflicting military statements only deepened the mystery, with some officials suggesting the object could have been a weather balloon, while others speculated about enemy aircraft or even UFOs. This unexplained event left behind shattered windows, damaged buildings from friendly fire, and a lingering question. Was Los Angeles truly under attack, or did something far more mysterious visit that night? 6. The Valençol UFO landing, 1965, Valençol, France. In July 1965, Maurice Mass, a farmer in Valençol, France, claimed to witness a UFO land near his farm. He described seeing two small humanoid figures emerge from the craft, which temporarily paralyzed him. Investigators found physical evidence, including indentations in the ground and strange burn marks. Despite initial skepticism, the Valençol UFO incident is regarded as one of the most credible European UFO sightings, with Mass's consistent testimony and the physical evidence left behind. 7. Cash Landrum Incident, 1980, Texas, USA. In 1980, Betty Cash, Vicky Landrum, and Colby Landrum witnessed a diamond-shaped craft emitting intense heat and light on a dark Texas road. The UFO was accompanied by military helicopters, leading many to believe it was a government experiment. However, all three suffered severe health effects afterward, resembling radiation poisoning, making the Cash Landrum incident one of the few UFO cases with physical after-effects and medical documentation. 8. The Belgian UFO Wave, 1989 to 1990. Belgium. Between 1989 and 1990, Belgium experienced a wave of UFO sightings, with witnesses describing large triangular crafts. The Belgian Air Force even chased these objects, but was unable to catch or identify them. Radar data confirmed their existence, but no explanation was ever given. The Belgian UFO wave remains one of the most credible UFO events due to the multiple forms of evidence, including radar, photos, and military involvement. 9. The Lonnie Zamora Incident, 1964. New Mexico, USA. In April 1964, police officer Lonnie Zamora of Socorro, New Mexico, witnessed something he couldn't explain. While chasing a speeder, Zamora heard a loud roar and saw a bluish-orange flame in the sky. Intrigued, he followed the sound, expecting to find an explosion. Instead, he came across a shiny, egg-shaped craft about 150 yards away, resting on 4 landing legs. Near the craft, he saw 2 small humanoid figures in white coveralls. Before he could approach, the object began emitting a loud roar, prompting Zamora to take cover. Moments later, it lifted off, leaving behind scorched earth and 4 distinct landing impressions. This incident is particularly significant due to the extensive physical evidence left at the scene. Project Blue Book investigators found burned brush, deep imprints, and even reports of fused sand under the landing site. Zamora also described seeing a unique red insignia on the side of the craft, a detail he kept secret for years to filter out hoaxes. His credibility as a police officer, combined with the physical evidence, makes this one of the most credible UFO sightings in U.S. history. 10. The Pascagoula Abduction, 1973, Mississippi, USA. One of the most bizarre and well-documented abduction stories occurred in October 1973, when Charles Hickson and Calvin Parker were fishing along the Pascagoula River in Mississippi. They described being suddenly paralyzed by a bright light and taken aboard a spacecraft by strange, clawed creatures with gray, wrinkled skin. According to their accounts, the creatures examined them with mechanical devices before returning them to the riverbank. What makes this case stand out is the reaction of both men after the incident. In a state of shock, they immediately reported the encounter to local authorities, passing lie detector tests soon after. Hickson and Parker remained consistent with their story for decades, with Parker even publishing a book about the experience in 2018. The Pascagoula abduction remains one of the most famous alien abduction cases, often cited due to the victims' reliability and the detailed descriptions of their captors.
Arthur. Conclusion and expert opinion.
Well, folks, thank you for joining me on this journey through some of the world's most offbeat news stories. Life is full of mysteries, and sometimes the best way to navigate it is to embrace the unknown. Keep your eyes open, your mind sharp and curious, and never stop asking questions. Remember, in the world of blank space, my space is your space too. So long, everybody. Until next time, this is Matt Blank, signing off.